Howdy folks, it's Mike Perry. I'm checking in with you from over on the other side of the state. I'm in the little room over my garage where I do my writing. And I was asked to share a story about Door County. And my understanding is this is part of an effort for folks to connect even during this time when a lot of us are hunkered down and holed up. And I love what they're trying to do here. And I am going to take care of some official business quickly. Got to break the third wall or the fourth wall or whichever wall it is and put on my cheaters and read to you the fact that this is the Door County Spring Training Story Time. And it is presented by Right On, it's presented by Door County, and it is presented by the Door County Auditorium. So I'm a farm kid from Chippewa County, Wisconsin. Grew up a long ways away from Door County. I don't remember the first time I made it to Door County, but I bet I was well into my adulthood. And most of the visits I've made to Door County are an outgrowth of the fact that this farm kid wound up getting a nursing degree, then wound up writing for a living, and then wound up having his stories propel him down the road in a used Toyota van. And so I've told my stories up and down the Door County Peninsula at several of the arts centers in several different settings. I've gone off, taken a ferry, and done presentations out on the island there. And when I wrote the script for my play, Population 485, which is based on the book, I locked myself in Norbly's coop on the Right On grounds there for 3 days straight until I got that script done. So I owe a lot to Door County, and I have fond memories of the folks who have come to my events there and the stories we've shared. And if it'll help move this little effort along, I'm real happy to share my story this morning. So I'm going to read, it's a little piece I wrote originally as a newspaper column, and it's in this book, Roughneck Grace, which is published by Wisconsin Historical Society Press. And one of the things I like about this book is it's published on paper made in Wisconsin. That means a lot to me. My dad worked in the paper mills when I was born over there in the Nakusa area. All right, this little piece I wrote called Island Life. I had just settled in at the Red Cup Coffee House when the electricity failed. It was an overcast morning, and summer traffic to Washington Island was on the wane, so the room was populated largely by regulars. After a brief pause in the chatter, there came a chuckle of recognition, as if the power failure was but another familiar friend stepping through the door. Then everyone resumed talking in the dark. I like to think of Washington Island as the dot completing the inverted exclamation point of the Door County Peninsula. As I rode the ferry across Death's Door, I was reminded, as I also am when I visit places like Bayfield or Green Bay or Superior or Manitowoc or Algoma, how easy it is for those of us raised in the landlocked cows and corn portions of Wisconsin to forget about the maritime fringes of the state. I always feel as if I'm sneaking a visit to the East Coast on the cheap, except out there you can't get a cheese curd with your seagull. The denizens of Washington Island have graciously hosted my family several times off and on over the years in order that I might sing some songs or yap about my books. One winter we holed up on the island for the better part of a month while I hacked away at the opening chapters of a book about love and old pickup trucks, often while sitting in a corner of the Red Cup Coffee House. Our last visit was 5 years ago. This was written a little while back. I snuck over there again last year and did a couple of events in Door County last year. Our last visit was 5 years ago, so it was a delightful moment to step inside the shop this past week and feel as if I had stepped out only the previous afternoon. Owners Mike and Ann were still in place behind the counter, assisted by their daughter Tate. Over the years, Mike has become known for what might be described as a forthright customer service model, and it was reassuring to find that he still seemed a tad grumpy, which I took as testament to the consistency of his character. For the first time in 13 years, Mike and Ann will close up shop over the winter. They'll reopen come spring, but I expect a few desperate decaffeinated locals will be found frozen to the coffee shop windows before the thaw. I was facing a writing deadline, so I set up at a table along the wall. While the laptop These are unedited, folks. This is just me live, real, and without any makeup. I did shave, just this part today, so I care. I shave because I care. While the laptop woke itself, sometimes you write things that are easier to write. They look pretty on the page, but man, they're hard to say. It's just me up here in the room alone talking to my phone. While the laptop woke itself, I was pleased to note I recognized a few familiar faces among the post-summer crew convened at an adjacent table. As when I last visited, they were discussing the state of the world. It was unanimously agreed that there was room for improvement. Yeah, buddy. And several suggestions were made to that end. Action, on the other hand, was tabled in favor of a refill and further review. Memory has a way of fooling us, so I was grateful to take a first pull on my coffee and find it every bit as good as I remembered. My standards in most things run about ankle high, but over time and travel I have morphed into a closet coffee snob. The stuff at the Red Cup rates my highest category. So good, that first sip makes me want to flop over and shake my leg like a belly-scratched dog. I'd been writing for half an hour when the lights went out. The power returned briefly at one point, and then everything went dark again. By now it felt nice that way, and edit. By now it felt nice that way, and I had plenty of battery, so I kept writing. I heard one of the regulars say, well, as soon as the power goes off, the valve shuts, so you don't got to worry about that. But all other conversation addressed everything but the lack of juice. Island life breeds a certain level of acceptance, and it was lovely, even under deadline, to absorb a bit of that by osmosis. When the power sparked on the second time, it stayed on. The lights came up just as one of the locals stepped through the door. She was rewarded with a hearty round of applause, after which could be heard the sound of the coffee grinder and more conversation. I think that's one of those quotidian, if I may. I got in trouble for using the word quotidian once. It just means the everyday, the commonplace. It's got a nice rhythm to it, though, quotidian. I don't get to use it a lot down at the feed mill. But those little scenes, where you're just having coffee and the power comes back on and everybody goes back to visiting and drinking their coffee, those are the little quotidian moments, I think, that we really long for during times like this. And I hope I could convey to you there just for a little while what it's like to be sitting on Washington Island having a good cup of coffee. And listen, I'm on the other side of the state, but I'm your neighbor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your neighbors. Be good to each other. And hang in there. Forward.